After days of travel chaos, the Air Canada strike is over. Some people are still scrambling, though, as the airline warns it could take days for operations to return to normal. We are back at the airport tonight. This is a live look, and we're speaking with people trying to get to their destinations.
The flip side is we're still figuring out the impacts of this Air Canada strike. Union workers defied a back-to-work order this week, and that could set a precedent. What could this mean for other airlines and beyond?
Plus, we take you back to North York tonight, where a community has been rocked by the death of an 8-year-old boy killed by a stray bullet while sleeping with his mother. A vigil is being held for Javay Roy later this week.
This is Live at 5. Thank you for joining us. I'm Andrew Brennan.
And I'm Lena Latafat. Thanks for being here and welcome to Live at 5. A sigh of relief for many at airports all over today. Things are still a long way from normal, but Air Canada is slowly resuming operations after the strike by flight attendants ended today.
Now, we had Chopper 24 around the airport giving us a view of the first Air Canada jets taking off. This one, in fact, going to Montreal, taking off around 4 this afternoon, so barely an hour ago. All flights were grounded as of Friday when flight attendants walked off the job. They were quickly ordered back to work, but did not return until today. And this after a marathon overnight session where their union reached a tentative agreement with the airline.
And for more on the end to this labor dispute, we're joined live by Melissa Duggan, who's at Pearson Airport, continuing our coverage. You've been there all week listening to the stories. What are you hearing tonight, Melissa?
You know, a lot of people thrilled knowing that they're finally going to be able to get on their flight. Maybe it was canceled once, maybe it was canceled twice. Lucky to get on a flight tonight, just, hours after those flights just resumed here today. Not all flights taking off, though. Air Canada saying about half of their flights are going to be in operation over the next little while, with more slowly coming back online as well. We are seeing some delays, but finally, though, flights are coming and going. I've been trying to stop people as they've been racing to get to their gate, saying, no, I can't talk. I'm just thrilled to have my ticket. I finally want to get on that plane and finally take off. And I think that Tara is probably feeling the same way right now. You are headed to Dublin. You were supposed to fly out yesterday. What happened?
That's right. We were supposed to fly out yesterday on the 8:40 p.m. flight. It was canceled around 1:30 in the afternoon yesterday, so we're constantly checking the app for updates.
So before you came to the airport?
Correct. Yeah, we wanted to make sure we could check in, or at least make sure it was still scheduled a couple hours before. And then once we saw it was canceled, we knew we were not going yesterday. But we were booked with a tour, the International Heritage Tours. So our guide, Henry, was fantastic about keeping us all up to date. There's 36 of us going. We're doing a pilgrimage to Ireland, and he kept us up to date. And when he was able to rebook today, probably about 3 o'clock this afternoon.
Oh, wow.
He told us to come for 5 o'clock.
So you just have to race to Pearson then?
Yeah, well, we were already packed, so
okay,
we were all ready to go. We were praying that we'd still be able to make it.
Well, and I'm sure you're giving hope to a lot of people right now. A tour group with 36 people was able to rebook on a flight just a day after when you were supposed to take off originally.
That's right, yeah. So it was pretty amazing.
How are you feeling?
Fantastic. I know we've lost a day of our tour, but at least we're still going. Trip of a lifetime.
Oh, absolutely. We'll have safe travels to you. You're finally going to get there very soon. And we do know that it's going to be about 7 to 10 days before service is up and running fully. That's what we're hearing from Air Canada's COO. I want to share more of what he's telling us.
Our flights to Sydney, Australia from Vancouver, the first one will leave tonight, but there's no more crews or aircraft around the world. It's all been brought home because the strike lasted so long. So the flight goes down to Australia with customers and the crew tonight. That takes about a whole day to get to Australia. It has to sit in Australia for an entire day so that crew can have, of course, their rest and be prepared to operate. And then the third day, it comes back to Vancouver, and that takes a whole day. So just that one route, we're talking about 3 days to get it back going. And then we have hundreds of routes throughout the system, similar story.
Hey, just found another group that's traveling. 16 of you. Just stopped you right now. Where are you going?
We're going to Athens, Greece, and then we're going on a cruise there. And we were so afraid that it was going to get canceled. And we've been refreshing the Air Canada website like 24/7. So we're so
Is this
excited.
the original booking?
Yes, yeah.
Oh, wow.
It's, yeah.
Okay.
I know. And we've been looking forward for like a year and a half. Like, it's crazy. Yeah.
Was it a stressful weekend, wondering what's going to go on with the
Very
flight?
stressful. It's a roller coaster that none of us wanted to be on, and we're happy to get off of it. So we're
Tell me that moment when you finally refreshed and thought, hey, this is really happening.
it's still surreal. I think until the airplane's up in the air, I think that we're all very cautious right now. Yeah.
See those smiles? You got that positive attitude. Have a fabulous trip. So this is the kind of mood that we're seeing a lot here today. People just so grateful that they could get to where they're going, whether it is Dublin, whether it is Athens, people to happen to get on those flights. International, by the way, that's the priority for flights that we're hearing from Air Canada tonight. Tomorrow, going to be more of a focus on North America. For now, going to toss it back to you.
What a stressful week it's been, and you can tell by just speaking with that group, they're so cautiously optimistic. They almost feel like it's too good
And
to
some
be
relief.
true.
It's like they're knocking on wood the whole time, just hoping that this is what's right. Well, I would like that itinerary to fly with them. Congrats to them. Have fun in Athens. Melissa Duggan, thank you.
Thanks, Melissa. Well, air passenger rights advocate Gabor Lukács says travelers impacted by the strike, they do have a right to transportation accommodations as long as they haven't accepted a refund.
Once you have gotten your ticket on a different airline, you have come home to Canada, your next step is sending Air Canada the bill with a demand for payment within 30 days. I would send it to Air Canada's chief legal officer by email with a letter of demand attached, very short, professional email letter saying, this is what flight I had originally. It was canceled. Air Canada failed to rebook me in accordance with the APPR. It left me no option but to buy myself a ticket. I incurred expense amount X. Please pay for it in accordance with the law and the APPR and the Montreal Convention if you travel internationally. And if Air Canada doesn't pay within 30 days, on the 31st day, I would serve Air Canada with small claims court papers.
Now, we also are hearing from the Prime Minister about the end, finally, to this strike and job action. Here's what Mark Carney is saying. I am relieved, he says. Air Canada and CUPE have reached a tentative agreement earlier this morning. And he also says it is my hope that this will ensure flight attendants are compensated fairly at all times, while ending disruption for hundreds of thousands of Canadian families, workers, and visitors to Canada.
Now, the Air Canada strike may be over, but there are lots of questions about the tactics that were used during this labor dispute and what those tactics mean for airlines and other industries. For a closer look at this, let's bring in CP24's Phil Perkins. There's got to be a lot of flight attendants with other airlines thinking, what about us?
Exactly, Lena and Andrew. Good evening. That's right. Other flight attendants are working at WestJet, working for Transat, who also, we understand, do not get paid for the work they do on the ground, the pre-safety checks, the deboarding. They also not getting paid. And before this massive, you could probably call it historic strike by the flight attendants with Air Canada, they have really set the precedent now for future talks. And so we do understand that, potentially this unpaid work on the ground, it could be over. We haven't seen the actual finished deal yet, but it could follow suit with other airlines that do pay for the groundwork. Delta Airlines offered it up to their flight attendants who are not unionized. In 2022, American Airlines started offering that. Last year, Porter Airlines also pays a portion of their hourly wage while they're on the ground. Now, we do also understand that Patty Hyde announced over the weekend they were going to be doing a probe to look at these allegations of this unpaid work on the ground. And we spoke with employment lawyer Aaron Coos about that probe and how it could benefit flight attendants in other airlines. We also heard from Executive Director from Canadian Center for Policy Alternatives, Peggy Nash, talking about the public support for flight attendants, about those unpaid work on the ground may have really given them the leverage they needed to get this deal done. Here's what both had to say.
Of course, we don't know what the content of the deal is, and we don't know exactly what's going to happen in the ratification. We only know what the parties have said publicly and what the government has said publicly, which interestingly rather includes an inquiry into the concept of unpaid work. I think in terms of looking at what this might mean for future negotiations, it's going to depend on whether, first of all, how this inquiry goes. It may not be necessary for employees of other airlines to go on strike to get time for this work on the ground, this work on the flight before they take off. If there is, in fact, a federal inquiry that says this isn't appropriate and can't go on any longer.
The union was very focused on their two main issues of wages and pay for ground work. And their members were clearly educated and united behind them and firm in their resolve. And I think what also helped the union is that for the traveling public, there's a lot of frustration for people who feel that generally their experience in air travel has not been that great. So I think a lot of sympathy for the people who work for the airline. And, it just seemed that maybe the company was relying on the government coming in and trying to force people back to work through an arbitration. And again, I think that misread the situation very badly.
There's also some legal fallout after all this. We also understand that some passengers are filing a class action lawsuit against Air Canada about how they dealt with the flight cancellations and rebookings. And we also understand there are some class action lawsuits against CUPE over defying that back to work order, which was implemented by Minister of Jobs Patty Hajdu over the weekend. And so we're going to see what happens with those two. But knowing just how the legal system works could take a while for those. Back to you.
Mm-hmm. Good. We also have to mention they haven't been approved by a court yet. That being said, we'll have to see where this goes.
Yep,
it's
for sure.
up in the air, as it were. That's Phil Perkins. Thanks very much.
All right, it's 5:11 now, 20 degrees. Let's get a check on the drive home. Adjo NCA keeping a very close eye on that. Is it still raining out there, Adj?
You know what it is. Depending on where you're headed, you're running into rain, and in other areas, you're running into strictly delays. In one area, you're running into a problem, and I've been watching this issue for a bit. So westbound on the 401, if you're making your way to Whitby, not seeing a lot of rain, but this problem really creating a big delay for commuters trying to get out of Whitby through Brock Street. It's the right lane and shoulder block to this collision. It is very slow from before Stevenson Road. And then on the eastbound lanes of the 401, it looks like they're looking for something actually on the westbound 401 because they just moved this camera through Dixie. We might have a situation just west of here, just through the 410 in the collectors. Might be the right lane blocked with something. My next update, I'll definitely keep an eye on that for you. Don Valley Parkway, no problems, and the rain has subsided. It's still really busy, though. Bayview blow up to the 401, and it is jammed on the Gardner into and out of the downtown core. The good news, fingers crossed, no live lane issues. I'll send it back to you.
This CP24 traffic report is brought to you by 407 ETR. Enjoy the journey with a stress-free commute.
I'm glad she ended on some good news there. Thanks very much, Adjo. It's 5:12, 20 degrees, and this is Live at 5.
Well, the mother of Javay Roy wants you to remember his name, and a vigil is being planned to honor the 8-year-old shot while sleeping over the weekend. We're going to have the latest on the search for his killer next.
Welcome back to CP24, a story that's rocked many people and been such a hardship for a family. No lead still following the death of 8-year-old Javay Roy. He was sleeping in bed with his mother overnight when he was struck by a stray bullet and killed. A vigil to remember the child will be held later this week.
Yeah, and for the latest on the investigation, let's bring in our crime analyst, Steve Ryan, who is back at the crime scene tonight. Steve, what are you hearing from the community? Because we know they are just devastated.
Yeah, devastated is a good way to describe, Lena, just how this community is feeling regarding the loss of one of their own community members, just an 8-year-old boy who, as we've been reporting, was sleeping in his bed with his mom on the main floor of his apartment unit when a stray bullet entered his bedroom window and struck and killed him. So there's some irony here, and here's what I mean. A family friend stopped by to talk with me just a short time ago, and they showed me a picture. They showed me a picture that was on the screensaver of their phone, and it was Javay. He was in front and center of this picture. His mom was behind him. There was a big crowd behind them, and they were at Queen's Park. They were preparing for their walk, an anti-gun violence walk that they partake in all the time. Mom was an advocate in her community for safe streets, and she included her children in these walks. So it's so ironic to see this little boy so proud to be with his mom, with this banner behind them talking about the safe streets, and ironically, now he's lost his life as a result of illegal gunplay that took place Saturday morning. So, yeah, to say that this community is devastated is really not giving it justice when it comes to just how sad they all are regarding what has transpired. This family friend that stopped by, they too are anti-gun advocates. And I spoke with Councillor Nunziata and to this family friend and got their thoughts on what has transpired rather, and I will speak to both clips on the other side. Let's listen to both.
You can't even be safe in your own home. This is disgusting. I'm so sick of it. I've been worried about it all week. It just breaks my heart that this can happen. And I mean, there's too many shootings in the city, and we have to put an end to it.
Honestly, the whole situation, it's really messed up. It sucks that gun violence is such a common thing in the city. I wish that, everybody could take the time to think before they do, because senseless acts of violence always end up with, families that are sad, families that lost their loved ones. Gervais is not the only loved one I've lost to gun violence. I've lost a few. It's sad to say that, but it's become a norm. It's become a reality for a lot of people. It's become normal.
And with all that's happened, that statement that Mom released on Facebook just shows her resolve in continuing to be an advocate. And while all this goes on, the Chief Toronto Police, Chief Demke, had said after this occurred that he would commit every resource that the City of Toronto had when it comes to policing to investigate this matter. So that is being done around the clock as well, while the police actively identify the people responsible for this senseless tragedy. I'll send it back to you guys.
Just a gut-wrenching story. Steve Ryan reporting live from that community that is still grieving. Steve, thanks so much. Well, police have released an image of a woman wanted for an assault on a TTC bus back in the spring.
The suspect's image has been shared by police, and this is it right now. If you recognize this woman, she's 5'5" to 5'6", police say, 50 to 60 years old, medium build, last seen wearing a white shirt. Police say that an altercation took place on a bus near Jane and Falstaff, May the 26th. The victim, police say, was assaulted by the suspect whose photo is on your screen, but not injured. They say that the suspect exited the vehicle and left the area, unknown where on the bus route. Anyone, though, with information is asked to call Toronto Police.
And York Police are searching for a man wanted in a break-and-enter in Vaughan. The suspect is approximately 25 years old with a thin build, dark, scruffy facial hair and medium-length dark hair. Police say on June 29th, a place of worship near Bathurst and Lady Dolores Avenue was entered. Damage was caused to computers and an audio system before cash, alcohol, and food were taken. That suspect fled on a bicycle. York Police say they don't believe the incident was hate-motivated.
Meantime, in Barrie, police say 5 people are facing charges after a smash-and-grab robbery at a jewelry store. Police say that the suspects fled in a car after the robbery at the Georgian Mall yesterday afternoon, but officers, police say, caught up with the vehicle on the southbound 400. Then it crashed while attempting to exit at the Innisfil Beach Road off-ramp. 5 people from Toronto, Mississauga, and Barrie were arrested. They range in age from 16 to 21. Police say the getaway car was stolen in Toronto last week.
Well, police are looking for a vehicle that struck a woman in a parking lot in St. Jamestown.
Yeah, it happened around 7:45 this morning. This was outside of an apartment building at St. James Avenue in Parliament. The woman was taken to hospital with serious injuries. Police say, though, the driver involved did not remain on scene. There is no description of the vehicle as of now.
5:20, 20 degrees. You're watching Live at 5 on Toronto's Breaking News, CP24.
Well, gas is cheaper, but groceries not so much. We're going to break down the latest inflation numbers when we return on Live at 5. Welcome back. Statistics Canada says the annual rate of inflation cooled to 1.7% year over year in July. That's because of lower gas prices, leading the decline from 1.9% year over year in June.
The agency says prices for gas were down more than 16% year over year, thanks largely to the removal of the consumer carbon price. If you think you're paying more for groceries, though, you'd be right. Costs rose 3.4% annually at grocery stores, up from 2.8% in June. Shelter inflation also saw its first increase since February of last year at 3%. David McDonald, he's a senior economist with the Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives. He says what's interesting here is that the trade war with the U.S. isn't having quite the impact many expected.
One of the things I think that's becoming pretty clear is that the threat of tariffs is that they can increase prices, but they haven't been in Canada. The clear effect of the tariff war so far has been decreasing economic growth. And so we definitely saw that in the projections in July from the bank, where we see a permanent decrease, it appears, in economic growth in Canada as a result of the tariff war with the U.S.
Let's break this down a little bit further. Mauricio Zelaya is an economist with Ernst & Young. He says the costs are still about 30% higher now compared to the pre-pandemic levels, even though inflation has cooled.
It's really important to also really unpack those numbers, because you take that a step further, there have been other factors that are at play. So you focus on, say, the rising in grocery bills, focused on around 3.5%. You dig in a little bit deeper, you see coffee rising. It's almost about 28%. Now that's very secluded because it's focused more on poor weather conditions, but even fresh fruit is up 4% as well. So it does mean that, well, there may be some easing in household pressure for your budgets in terms of gasoline, but there is still continued pressure on rising in shelter costs, rental rates, and grocery prices as well.
So, of course, one of the big questions is, what is this going to mean for the central bank's next rate decision? And the Bank of Canada will announce that decision in mid-September.
5:25, almost 20 degrees outside. This is Live at 5.
Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is still out of the lineup today, but there are some good news about his hamstring injury. That's next. Welcome back. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. won't be in the lineup as the Blue Jays continue their series in Pittsburgh tonight.
Yeah, it was a bit of a scary moment for Jays fans as he left last night's game with left hamstring tightness and after actually going into a full split to catch a throw from Bo Bichette in the third inning. Guerrero could be seen pointing at his leg as he was being looked after in the dugout. The team says that after the game, that their star would undergo an MRI. The good news is that MRI is proven clear. It's minor inflammation. The Jays are looking to square off their series against the Pirates today.
I'm glad he's going to be okay. Well, Canada is leading the way when it comes to volunteering at the 2026 FIFA World Cup.
Yeah, Toronto and Vancouver, it turns out, are number 1 and 2 among the 16 host cities in terms of volunteer applications. There's been more than 565,000 that have been received to date, and of those, over 180,000 are for the Canadian venues. Volunteers are providing everything from support at stadiums and training sites, plus airports, hotels, and more.
5:28, 20 degrees. This is Live at 5.
It has been the big story all weekend and into the week. Air Canada is back flying, but passengers still trying to deal with thousands of challenges all around the world. Flights gradually resuming, but we'll be hearing from travelers trying to make those destinations next. After days of travel chaos, the Air Canada strike is over, but many are still scrambling, figuring out what to do. It could take days for operations to get back to normal, and we're at the airport right now speaking with people trying to get where they're going.
Looks really busy there. We're also talking about the impact of this Air Canada strike. Union workers defied a back-to-order work this week, setting a precedent. It was a bold move, and what could that move mean for other airlines?
And plus, we'll take you to North York tonight. A community has been reeling with the death of an 8-year-old boy, Jave Roy, struck by a stray bullet as he was sleeping in his mother's arms. There's a vigil being held for him later this week.
You're watching Live at 5. Good evening, and thanks so much for joining us. I'm Lena Latifat.
I'm Andrew Brennan. Welcome to Live at 5. Our top story, a sigh of relief for many at airports across the country and beyond today. Things are a long way from normal, but Air Canada says it's slowly resuming operations after the strike by flight attendants finally ended today.
Chopper 24 was overhead as the first Air Canada jet with passengers took off from Pearson Airport. This was just after 4 o'clock this afternoon. All flights were grounded since Saturday when flight attendants walked off the job. They were quickly ordered back to work, but didn't return until today, just hours after their union reached a tentative agreement with the airline. What a week this has been for Air Canada passengers.
Yeah, and for more on the end of this labor dispute and the implications for those passengers, let's head to Pearson International Airport where we find our own Melissa Duggan. Melissa, you found people on their way to Athens, on their way to Dublin, and it's been a challenge for all of them, even if they're running now.
Yeah, Andrew and Lena, now I've just run into people on their way to London right now, and your flight's happening on time. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, so we've just been very, very lucky. I've been watching it for the kind of past couple of days, a little bit worried, so we need to get back to England tomorrow, don't we? So.
Yeah. And so this is the originally scheduled time for your flight. Were you just holding your breath all weekend long?
I mean, I was pretty relaxed about it. You were checking it constantly, weren't you? I was sort of like, no, it's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. So I manifested this.
Terrific. It looks like it's going your way. What was the moment when you realized, oh, this is actually happening? We're going to be able to go home, see your child?
I think it was this morning, actually, when I checked it, and everything was looking rosy. So, yeah, all good. Yeah.
How was your time in Canada?
Loved it. Absolutely loved it. Yeah, we'll definitely be back. Definitely.
Terrific. Well, have a safe trip home. Thanks so much for that. So some lucky travelers here, and that's kind of the sentiment that's being shared by quite a few people as well. Maybe they had some cancellations over the weekend and were able to get among some of the first flights to get out of here, or like these travelers, this was their originally booked flight and they just had some luck of the Irish, according to the Irish people I was speaking earlier who were headed to Dublin. So people going all over the place right now. And not every flight is on time at the moment. Not every flight is happening as well. About half are expected to be up and running later through this evening. And tomorrow we should be seeing more flights coming online, but it could be 7 to 10 days before everything is kind of back to normal right now. Aircraft have to get in place, staff have to get in place as well. We're learning more about some of the details and some of the information that Air Canada wants passengers to know. We were talking with the airline COO. Here's some of his message.
So we've now mobilized 5,000 Air Canada coworkers to do rebookings for customers. We're offering rebookings on other airlines up to 120, including our competitors. We're offering customers the ability, if they haven't yet commenced travel especially, to move their dates up to a year from now with no change fee. And of course, for those for whom it's appropriate, a full refund.
So this is the board that people are checking to figure out their fate for the next little while. We do see a number of flights here that are delayed at the moment. I'm looking at Montreal, St. John's, Halifax, Quebec, Saskatoon, all of those delayed, but still expected to go. A handful of cancellations that we're also seeing at the board right now. Of course, the message is check with Pearson, check with the airline before you head out to the airport to see if your flight is actually happening, because again, not all of them are going ahead as scheduled right now. It is once again going to take some time before people come back online. But let me tell you, talking to all these people today who are getting their flights on time, some of them have just kept their bags packed just in case, waiting for perhaps a break, perhaps their flight was going to happen. So they're feeling good about the situation right now. But obviously there are people watching this right now thinking, yeah, they're the lucky ones, not me. I don't know when I'm going to be able to get to my destination. So there are still people waiting and still trying to reach out to Air Canada to figure out what they're going to do for the next little while. So unfortunately, some travelers still have to be patient. Back to you.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking to people with happy endings. There's still so many who are stranded. I know you've heard those stories as well. Melissa Duggan, live at the airport. Melissa, thanks so much.
Now, for those that say potentially are stranded right now or are trying to figure out how to get home, maybe buying their own tickets on another airline, air passenger rights advocate Gabor Lucas says that the Air Canada strike is highlighting issues with Canada's laws to protect flyers and their money.
We have been urging for European-style passenger rights for about 2 decades. Unfortunately, even when the APPR have been drafted, the government have been advised by us that they are creating loopholes and chose to ignore it. I would very much hope that this crisis is going to show the government yet again that our predictions about the loopholes in the APPR have been correct, that we foresaw the problem as it happened in a number of other issues. When you think about the refund versus vouchers scandal back in 2020 during the pandemics, these were all issues to be predicted in advance.
And Prime Minister Mark Carney posted a statement on social media about this deal. He writes, "I'm relieved that Air Canada and the Canadian Union of Public Employees have reached a tentative agreement early this morning. It is my hope that this will ensure flight attendants are compensated fairly at all times while ending disruption for hundreds of thousands of Canadian families, workers, and visitors to Canada."
So the strike may be over, but there are some questions about the tactics that were used during this dispute and what this could mean not only for the airline industry, but other industries writ large.
Yeah, and for a closer look at that, let's bring in CP24's Phil Perkins. Phil.
Hey there, Lena and Andrew. Yeah, let's talk about the strategies, not just from the flight attendant union in CUPE, but also the federal government itself. It was pretty quick. That strike started Saturday morning, and then the next day, Patty Hajdu then issued the back-to-work legislation. And we then saw quite swiftly the next day, Monday morning, the day that Air Canada said that flights were supposed to resume, flight attendants decided, no, we are not going to follow that back-to-work legislation. We are going to continue picketing, and that resulted in more flight cancellations, hundreds of thousands of people inconvenienced, trying to get all over the place. And so now we're getting reaction to both of those actions. We heard from Canadian Labour Congress Bay Bruska talking about the government forcing workers back to work, not a good move. We also heard from employment lawyer Aaron Coos talking about flight attendants not facing legal action for not following suit with that back-to-work legislation. Here's what both had to say.
In the past, when government felt that this was necessary to insert themselves in bargaining, they would table legislation, return to work legislation that had to be debated in the House of Commons, and all parties had to identify where they stood, whether or not they stood with workers or not. And so we think that there's a better way to deal with these issues. Section 107 is not it.
In terms of the individual employees, it is, at least in theory, open to an employer to discipline or even terminate somebody for engaging in an unlawful strike. However, the practical reality is that most of the time when the parties reach an agreement like this that is going to go back for a vote, the union will negotiate a term where the employer says, we're not going to discipline anybody for their strike-related activity. And given how very strongly the CUPE leadership, the positions that they took in this, I'd be pretty shocked if they didn't include some kind of guarantee that their members wouldn't be disciplined.
And we heard from other experts as well, weighing in how the public perception of Air Canada, and everyone really learning seemingly at the same time that, according to some flight attendants, that they're not getting paid for work they do on the ground. If Air Canada were to then go ahead and take some of these flight attendants to court, the union to court, that might not be a good move in terms of public perception of the airline, which is already kind of hurting right now, guys. Back to you two.
And there are polls suggesting that as well. Indeed, Phil, thank you very much for breaking down the legal ramifications here. It's time to check on traffic. It's time to check on traffic. Let's bring in Adjoa CP24.
Yeah, it is. It's traffic time. It's always traffic time in the GTA. And, you're running into problems if you're trying to get out of Whitby. It's this ongoing collision on the westbound 401 at Brock Street in Whitby. Still this right lane and shoulder blocked with what remains of a collision. It looks like most of the vehicles are cleared, so a good sign that this is going to clear away. Rest of the 401, no other issues, but rain is hindering the drive. It is slow as you make your way across the top of the city. Trying to get into Vaughan on the 400 northbound. Rain really jamming up the drive. It's very busy from Highway 7 all the way up towards about Teston. And if you're on the northbound lanes of the 410, also looking at delays into Brampton, they start from Steeles and they continue all the way up towards Beauvert. On city streets, crews on scene of a brand new collision blocking lanes on Woodbine right in Norway. I'll send it back to you both.
Adjoa, thanks so much. It's 5:41, 20 degrees. This is Live at 5 on Toronto's Breaking News, CP24.
The mother of Javay Roy wants you to remember his name. A vigil is being planned now to honor the slain 8-year-old boy shot while sleeping in his bed over the weekend. We will have the latest as well on the search for his killer next.
Welcome back. There are still no leads following the death of 8-year-old Javay Roy, who was killed while sleeping with his mother by a stray bullet. A vigil to remember the child is going to be held later this week.
for the latest on the investigation as well into finding his killer. Let's bring in CP24's crime analyst, Steve Ryan. Now, Steve, I know you have been able to speak not only with friends of the family and also with the local counselor, but this is affecting everybody.
Yeah, Andrew, you make a very good point. It certainly does have the potential to infect an entire community, and especially a lot of kids. We spoke yesterday with a youth social worker who was on scene here dealing with a lot of these kids, and they had questions for him regarding how do we stay safe. And you can imagine those questions coming from children as they just want to go about their everyday lives and play in their playgrounds with their family and friends. So this counselor yesterday had some pretty good words of advice to these kids as he works alongside with them to get through this very a sad story. I did speak with another family friend who stopped by this location just a short time ago to share stories with me about Javet and his mom. His mom was an advocate in the community with regards to advocating against gun violence. And I did see a picture. We couldn't get the picture, unfortunately, but a photograph on this family friend's phone of Javet with his mom and a group of others out front of Queen's Park last year as they were getting ready to walk in part of a demonstration to eradicate and eliminate gun violence in the city. And this child had a smile ear to ear as he was getting ready to participate in this walk with his mom and another group of dedicated people who were walking from Queen's Park down to City Hall. So this certainly has caught the attention of many. The police are working around the clock. The chief did say that he has committed all of the resources from the Toronto Police to help the homicide squad identify the people responsible for this senseless death. So Javet's mom, who now lost her son due to gun violence, continues to be an advocate. There has been a story online that was on Facebook. She put out a statement, and in that statement, as she recalls what happened to her son, she certainly does say that she has become even more resolved in stopping and eradicating this gun violence. I did speak with Councillor Nunziato. She was here earlier on, and I spoke to this family friend who's also a councillor and an advocate for anti-gun violence. And here's what both of them said to me earlier. Let's have a listen.
I'm getting a lot of support from constituents, and I'm encouraging them to come out for the vigil that we have on Thursday, because I think it's important, not only the residents that live in the building, but as well as the community at large, to come out and show support and peace. And, you know, we have to work together, and it's not just the city, it's the provincial government, the federal government, this bail reform. It just sickens me that 90% of the shootings and the gun violence that we have are repeat offenders. And it happens all the time, and I'm sick of it.
It hurts my heart to know that just last year we were at that march standing for this exact thing. Every year we're at the gun violence marches. We're part of One by One movement, which is an organization that stands for and against, stands against gun violence, and they try to promote and make things known around the city for everybody to be involved. We took a picture last year in front of City Hall, and Javet standing right in the middle. And looking at that picture now, it's 10 times more powerful, because not only was he the smallest kid that was out there with us, he's a victim of what we were standing for.
I'll send it back to you guys.
All right, Steve Ryan reporting live. Steve, thanks so much. It's 5:47, 20 degrees. What a horrible story. You're watching Live at 5.
We've been talking over the last few days with passengers on Air Canada flights trying to get home. We're live outside of the airport right now. Thousands of passengers are still scrambling to get home. We're going to hear from one traveler stuck abroad when we return.
Welcome back. Back to our top story now. Some Air Canada passengers are still getting on their flights today, but thousands are scrambling as flights gradually resume. Lots of people still stranded.
A lot of people, over 500,000 were affected by the strike. Let's not forget. We're joined live now from Copenhagen by Calvin Safiolis. He was an Air Canada passenger and now trying to be a passenger on any airline trying to get home. Calvin, how are things going?
Things are going better. We finally do have a date to get out of here, which is great. Thursday, 9 p.m., but considering that's 5 days later than we thought, it's been a little bit of a trip.
I know that this has been a really stressful week for you and your brother and your friend. Tell us more about what this trip was supposed to be about and how it's actually unfolded for you guys.
Well, we were actually coming home to Canada from a wedding in Croatia. So we got on our first flight to connect in Copenhagen to get to Toronto. And as we checked in and we were getting ready to board and stuff, we got a notification that the next flight might be canceled. They were offering us a refund. When we landed in Copenhagen, we really didn't know what to expect. We didn't have a place to stay. We didn't have a connecting flight. Every flight we looked at was like $5,000 or like, wow. Going farther out, maybe $2,000, but we paid a couple $100 for these tickets months ago. So, it was just very, very stressful. The folks at the Danish airport here helped us get a hotel room and everything. It is covered by Air Canada. They were in connection with them. So that definitely took the stress level down. But then just trying to figure everything out with work and jobs and stuff. And when we're going to get back. So, yeah.
So you're taking extra time off work, Calvin. You said that Air Canada was able to provide a hotel, but there's still added incurred costs, I'm guessing, of staying in anywhere, frankly, in Europe for 5 days without planning a budget for it. Is there anything else that you've had to deal in terms of added costs here or things that we need to be worried about?
Well, these are 5 vacation days that, I would have used maybe at Christmas or another occasion. I just took 2 weeks off to go to Croatia. So that was awesome. But an extra week on top, now my vacation's looking pretty slim. My brother and my friend are both self-employed. So when they're not working, there's no money coming to them. It's just been stressful. And then, of course, looking at those ticket prices and being like, do we even have a credit card that we can throw this all on while we're out here? It's been a lot, and even if we get the refund on the tickets, it's a couple $100 versus what we've the last 5 days of work, like I said, and stuff. It's just been a lot.
Right, and you did exactly what you were supposed to do, which is not accept a refund. Were you asked to accept one though?
That was the first thing we're offered, and that's the only communication we've got from Air Canada. Like everything else that's been set up, the hotel and everything has been done through the Danish airport folks here, talking, I assume either to Air Canada, but we watched them book the hotels and everything right in front of us, and that's been our only point of contact. We've tried emailing. The day that this all happened, if you called, they just would cut you off. There was no way to get a hold of them, and it's been tough to actually talk to them.
Calvin, we have to wrap up, but does this change your impression on Canada's flagship airline for the future?
I'm going to try to use somebody else, but unfortunately, most Canadian flights I've found have been on Air Canada. So I just hope to get better.
Okay. Well, you're going to be home in how long and how many days, Calvin?
Thursday morning, we are hoping.
Okay. All right. Well, good luck to you. We hope that you get home safely. I know it sounds like a very, very stressful experience. Calvin Safiolis, an Air Canada passenger who's been trying to get home for days now. Good luck. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Calvin. It's 5:55, 20 degrees outside, and you're watching Live at 5.
Still to come, Health Canada has approved Ozempic for type 2 diabetes. We'll tell you more on the other side of this break. Hamilton's medical officer of health has declared the risk of contracting West Nile virus high after the first human case of the year was detected in that city.
Now, the risk of getting West Nile in Hamilton previously was considered moderate. The infectious disease specialist, Dr. Isaac Bogosh, was on CP24 earlier. He says that most people that actually get infected with West Nile don't even know they have it because they have no symptoms.
Only rarely, fortunately, very, very rarely, there can be neurologic manifestations, and sometimes that can be severe. It can include inflammation of the brain, inflammation of the spinal cord, and even a paralysis-like syndrome. It is extraordinarily rare. It does happen. It's extraordinarily rare. And like I mentioned before, the best thing we can do is prevent mosquito bites because the mosquitoes can transmit it around this time of year with long sleeve shirt, long pants, and bug spray.
Meantime, Health Canada has approved Ozempic to reduce the risk of further kidney decline among patients with type 2 diabetes.
Almost 50% of people with type 2 diabetes develop some form of chronic kidney disease. An international trial showed the risk of kidneys significantly deteriorating or failing was 24% lower with patients on Ozempic compared to a placebo.
It's 5:59 now, 20 degrees. You're watching Toronto's breaking news, CP24.
Air Canada flights have finally resumed after days of striking, but it could take over a week before full service is restored. Thank you as always for watching us. CTV News at 6 is next.